for the FCAT to go to evaluate a student's progress and a student's grades. These are boards of regents. This state has it. They would just talk over and wiped away, and they come up with this FCAT system. In other words, this state used to have a system like the other states did to go ahead and grade the students and show how well they did. I don't see a problem with returning to that system.
Thank you.
What is your plan to address the unemployment rates in the various cities you represent?
Well, my plan is to first start by recognizing that we do have a very high unemployment rate, and in District 88, the newly created District 88, there are a lot of communities that now have been put together. We're going to be neighbors where, unfortunately, the rates have gone even higher because of the population of the district. So there's no question that that exists. Part of my role as a legislator is to go to Tallahassee and create a budget. That's one of the biggest responsibilities that a legislator has. And when you go there, what you have to do is make sure that the resources that are needed to develop our small businesses and infrastructure in our communities, that we're getting our fair share. And that's what I intend to do, to fight for our fair share to develop economic projects and the infrastructure that we need and the workforce development, training, education that we need, retraining for our communities and our citizens. Thank you.
On the unemployment issue, please, especially with the district that I will be representing, look at the demographics of the people who are actually unemployed. A tremendous amount of them are construction workers. As I said in an earlier debate, the unemployment rate for this district is over 20%. It was after I said that the Post went ahead and looked into the numbers a bit better and then actually agreed with me. One of the larger problems that's actually affecting the construction industry isn't that we do not have educated people. What we do not have is a financial system that is willing to lend in the methods that it has before. Many contractors who used to have lines of credit have never had a problem with it. I've seen those lines of credit cut. But without credit, you're just not going to build, you're not going to hire workers, you're not going to move the materials. So basically, to go ahead and reduce unemployment, what we need to do is get the flow of money moving again. And this is done with bank regulations that, in fact, the federal government is still working on, and the banks do have the money they need to lend. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mantel. You said that the problem is not that we do not have a problem with education, that we do not have, yeah.
I didn't say that we do not have a problem with education. What I said is that the current workforce that is existing, that is unemployed, is educated to do the jobs. And this is particular to the construction industry. We have many people who already have the skills that are ready to go to work, but they're sitting around with no work because there's no credit, simply so the money will not flow so we can put them to work. The jobs are there.
Are you aware of the graduation rate outside of education, outside of construction, and where that number is?
The graduation rate, I believe, in Florida right now is at 80% for a high school student, and that is unacceptable. And part of that is, once again, we're not teaching the subject matter, we are teaching to a test.
And the graduation rate for black males?
It's even lower. That's close to about 70 to 60%, which is just unacceptable.
I do believe the graduation rate for black males is around the 25, 22%. And I think that is unacceptable. Sorry.
You guys.
Oh, we want to introduce our new, our additional candidate. Everyone, we have had an additional candidate for District 88 into the room, and we'd like to welcome Mr. Bobby Powell Jr. Mr. Powell, if you would take a moment, you have 60 seconds to introduce yourself to the audience.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is Bobby Powell Jr. I am a candidate for State House District 88. This is an open seat, which is currently held by current state representative who's running for state senate. I am a former aide to him. I've worked with him for 3 years, and I am a graduate of I'm a native of Riviera Beach, of course, but also graduated from Palm Beach Gardens High School, followed by Florida A&M University, where I graduated magna cum laude with a degree in public relations, and a graduate of Florida State University with a master's degree in urban and regional planning. I am an AICP certified planner. Prior to working for the state representative, I worked in the city of West Palm Beach as a planner. The issues that I'll be fighting for once I get to Tallahassee are affordable housing, economic development for our community, and of course, quality schools for our children, which is so desperately needed here. Again, my name is Bobby Powell Jr. I am a candidate for State House District 88. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. You guys have done a good job of identifying economic plight for citizens of Palm Beach County. If given the chance to go to Tallahassee to represent us, what kind of industries are you gonna fight for to help put people to work? There's been some talk we were understood that Script will provide jobs for people in this community, and there also been talks of casinos being built, casino resorts, and then there's a need for a hotel by the convention center. So there are a lot of avenues we could go, but what are the ideas that you have that are gonna put people to work here in Palm Beach County? Let's start with Bobby first.
Well, for me, I think a lot of it deals with small businesses. In our community, we have to deal with the small businesses because those are the economic engines that drive our economy. We can deal with in Tallahassee, we can work with the Black Business Investment Fund to make sure that funding is available for our black businesses in our district to make sure that we continue to we send money through our economy. Also, one of the things that I would like to focus on is housing and making sure that we have money in the Housing Trust Fund so that people can live and only have to pay 30% of their income, which in turn allows them to have, if they work, have a job that will allow them to continue to work and move the economy. It allows them to go out and go to movies, go to dinner. But right now, with the way it is, a lot of people can't afford to do that because they're spending more money on rent than they can afford, which means, of course, they can't do leisure activities. But definitely the small businesses, the hotel is coming, also infrastructure projects in our district. We have the port, and we're working on SLIP 3. Last year in the legislature, we were able to get $500,000 to come back to the city of Riviera Beach for the development of 13th Street. Thank you.
Ms. Garcia.
Yes, thank you. There's no question that in our particular district, I think I need it.
Good, yes. Be good if everybody
Thank
could
you.
use it up there, actually.
You prefer it? Very good, thanks. I would think that in our particular district that we're talking about, the residents of District 88, we have an opportunity to use the expansion of the port and the projections for economic development coming through with the Panama Canal expanding and different opportunities there. It was mentioned that some people see destination resorts, including gambling and casinos coming in. There are a lot of ideas on the table, and I think we have to continue to consult the business community to find out how we can continue to develop projects that will increase job opportunities for all our citizens at all different levels. You can start with construction jobs initially, and then you have service jobs at the end. We need jobs at every strata of the economy. We need apprenticeships. In my mind, I think it's very important to support the unions and have the unions support the apprenticeship programs that will enable people to get good working, good paying jobs with benefits. Thank you.
As the question stands, it's what could I do if I was in Tallahassee tomorrow? And the answer is quite simply, I will work on how the small businesses particularly are charged for the unemployment compensation tax. What happens is there are an awful lot of businesses that would be willing to hire right now. They're willing to hire the people who have been unemployed for a long time. However, a short-time hire is actually punitive to a business, because if they have to let that person go, they then pay again when that person goes on unemployment. So it is one of the factors that stops the small businessman from taking a risk in hiring new people until there is a point where they know they absolutely, definitely, and desperately have to have that person. So just by doing a tax credit on that one item, that would encourage small business around this state to start hiring and let's put people back to work.
Would anyone like to have a rebuttal to any of the responses that were given?
I'd like to switch and talk about protecting the citizens. I'd like to switch and talk about protecting the citizens in the community. In the midst of the rash of violence in Colorado, and on the other end of the spectrum, in the Trayvon Martin case locally specifically, how do you guys feel, and it's gonna come up in Tallahassee if you're elected in the next session, how do you guys feel on continuing the stand your ground law? Are you for it or against it? Let's start with Charles. He's asking my question.
Quite honestly, I am for the stand your ground law. And one of the reasons is because I have had to actually stand my ground, and then I went to court being accused of aggravated assault with a weapon, subject to 20 years minimum mandatory, for merely protecting my own self. And that is what the law is without stand your ground. Now, stand your ground does not mean chase somebody down and kill them. It means you don't have to retreat back in your house into your hole in it. And let me tell you something about retreat. Think about it. Before you even think of pulling a gun, think about retreating. You know, stand your ground does not mean you stand and confront. It means you don't have to be forced back. You know, so there's the question that's really missing here is the confrontation issue. So I am for it, but in other words, we need to modify how it is actually looked at. This way the citizens can protect themselves, and I am not going to vote against the citizens being able to protect themselves.
Thank you. I think stand your ground has to disappear. I think it is awful. It is just one more thing, assault on our community, on our children, on our citizens. It is just one more assault from Tallahassee on our rights, voting rights, civil rights, our right to walk in peace and safety in our communities. Stand your ground just gives license to people who want to do vigilante work to go out and terrorize our communities. In our communities, we already have safety issues. We need more safe neighborhoods for our children and our elderly and ourselves. We need protection for the homes that are vacant now that we want to put back on the market. We don't need people going around shooting and killing people. Stand your ground has to go. Thank you.
Bobby Powell, once again, candidate State House District 88. I'd be in favor of repealing the stand your ground law. And every year in Tallahassee, legislation comes up. This legislation came up a few years ago, and we have representatives here who are actually in this room who were there when this came up. I'd be in favor of repealing it because in Tallahassee, we have trust funds. And in those trust funds, most trust funds are swept because of the special interests. Well, one trust fund is never swept, and that's the trust fund that deals with guns and rifles. And that's because the NRA is very, very powerful in Tallahassee. And we have to be able to stand up and fight against the special interests. So, of course, I'd be an advocate against repealing, or advocate for repealing the stand your ground law, because not only has it done damage in Sanford, Florida, but it's also done damage in Riviera Beach, it's done damage in West Palm Beach, it's done damage in Boynton, it's done damage in Lake Worth, it's done damage throughout my district, the district that I currently live in, so I would be for repealing it. Bobby Powell Jr., candidate State House District 88.
Rebuttal?
30 seconds.
I would like to ask my other two opponents what law that they will put in place to replace stand your ground. If you actually look at all the gun laws, all you have to do is put your hand on a gun and look threatening at somebody, and it's a 10-year minimum mandatory sentence. I am not in favor of filling up the jails with people who have to defend themselves. So the question stands is, if you take away stand your ground, which was the result of 10, 20, 25 life, what law will you put back in place to protect the citizens who protect themselves?
In regards and in answer to my opponent's question, I did not propose that I put a law in place to replace stand your ground. Everybody, well, just for those of you who know, this year, or any year in Tallahassee, legislators have an opportunity to sponsor 6 bills, and that's probably not going to be one of the bills I'd be willing to sponsor. Thank you very much.
the way I would address the question